Good evening. This regular meeting of the Board of Trustees is being held Tuesday, September the 21st, 2021. The meeting is being called to order and the time is 6 p.m. We're going to begin with a Pledge of Allegiance. We have a very special guest today, and we're going to go ahead. Everyone, please join me in standing in for the Pledge of Allegiance, led by Raimundo Velarde, fifth grader at Sergeant Jose F. Carrasco Elementary. Welcome.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated. Let's proceed with the next item. Item is number 3, Interim Superintendent's comments.
Good evening, everyone. President Morales and members of the board, I would like to begin by wishing a very happy early birthday to Trustee Ricardo Castellano, who will be celebrating his birthday on Monday, October the 4th. Next, I'd like to welcome and introduce our new leaders in SISD. First on is Dr. Analia Jansen as the new Director of Special Education. Also, Mr. Christopher Weeham as the new Assistant Principal at Socorro High School. Mrs. Lisa Estrada Batson as the new Assistant Superintendent of Schools. Mr. Adalberto Garcia as the new Assistant Superintendent of Schools. Mr. Enrique Herrera as the new Assistant Superintendent of Schools. And last but not least, Ms. Miriam Esparza as the new Assistant Principal at Socorro High School. It is such an honor to serve the Socorro ISD community, which I truly love and cherish with all my heart as interim superintendent. Though it's hard to believe, we've already surpassed 100 days working through this transition. Thank you to everyone in Team SISD for your tireless efforts to keep safety as a priority, to work together as the Socorro ISD family that we are, and to also maintain high-achieving student and staff performance. These are the goals that we have kept as a focus on during this time, and we will continue to maintain it, not only to get us through, but to see us excel this year. I have prepared a community update recapping the first 100 days of the transition, and I invite our community to see the video and view the update, which will be posted tomorrow morning on our district website and on social media. Again, thank you all for leading with your heart and for our students in schools. Working together as the Socorro ISD family, we will continue to succeed. And speaking of success and working together, I am excited to share that last week, Socorro ISD was awarded the University of Texas at El Paso Golden Impact Community Partner, Holding It Together for Our Community Award. The prestigious honor recognizes the collaboration between Team SISD and the university to provide innovative opportunities and support for students and staff to continue their education. I'd like to thank our leadership team and their support for our students and staff to continue their education. I'd like to also thank our leadership team who invest in building those relationships and strategic partnerships on behalf of our Socorro Independent School District family. Congratulations to our district on this awesome award. And I'd also like to remind everyone that we will be having our Socorro Independent School District Foundation Golf Tournament on Friday, October the 8th. Thank you, Mr. President. This concludes my comments.
Thank you, Ms. Carmona. We're going to proceed to item 4, Board Honors. Our presenters, Daniel Escobar.
Good evening, President Morales, members of the board, and Interim Superintendent, Mrs. Carmona. My name is Daniel Escobar, Chief Communications Officer for the district, and it is my pleasure to introduce tonight's recognitions. If you'll all please step down to receive our honorees. Our first recognition this evening honors the winners of the 4th annual Print Those Pics cell phone photography contest. These 12 talented individuals placed among 4 divisions: elementary school, middle school, high school, and employee. Their artwork was selected among the more than 200 entries that were submitted into the contest. Their photos will hang on the walls of the SISD District Service Center now through November for the Team SISD community to enjoy. Congratulations to the winners of this year's Print Those Pics contest. Joining us today are Raimundo Velarde from Jose Carrasco Elementary School, Lisa Avila Gonzalez from Pebble Hills High School, Sienna Luna from El Dorado High School, as well as in our employee category from Eastlake High School, Claudia Castañeda, from El Dorado High School, Allison Vega, and from William Slider Middle School, Bianca Sanchez. If we can have you all please return to the front for a photo with our trustees and Mrs. Carmona. Keep smiling and looking straight ahead. All right, congratulations once again. Our second recognition this evening honors longtime volunteer Stephen Hambrick, who earned the prestigious 2021 Heroes for Children Award from the State Board of Education District 1 for his outstanding service and support to schools, community, staff, and students. Hambrick, who was one of only 15 awarded in the state, has volunteered for SISD for nearly 40 years. Congratulations to this dedicated volunteer, Mr. Stephen Hambrick. If we can have you right here front and center, sir, for a photo with our trustees. We'll put, there we go. Congratulations once again, and thank you for everything, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you. Our final recognition this evening honors a new school naming task force, which reviewed community nominations and recommended names for the new combo elementary and middle school currently under construction in the Eastlake area. This group also made recommendations on mascots and colors for each name recommendation. Parents and students who live in the Eastlake area participated as members of the task force, along with partners in education, members of the Bond Accountability Committee, and district staff. Thank you so much for your service as part of the SISD New School Naming Task Force. Joining us tonight are Mr. Ruben Castro, Maritza Trejo, Isabella De Brul, Chris Lopez, Robert Alvarez, Tom Ianton, and Andy Perez. Ladies and gentlemen, if we can please have you back to the front for a photo. Thank you again for your service. And that concludes our recognitions for this evening. Thank you.
At this time, we'll move to item 5, special presentations. Once again, our presenter, Daniel Escobar. Okay, we're going to move on to open forum. Before we do that, I have to read out loud. Oh, he did it together. Okay, I'm sorry. We're going to go ahead and stay at item 6, Board of Trustees business. Consider approval of the Texas Education Human Resources Day Resolution, October 13, 2021. Mr. Thomas Redlinger.
Good evening, Board President Morales, Interim Superintendent Ms. Carmona, and members of the board. I am Mr. Thomas Redlinger, Interim Chief Human Resources Officer, and I'm requesting consideration of the approval of the Texas Education Human Resources Day Resolution for October 13th, 2021. I am honored to introduce to you Mr. Jaden Garcia, 8th grade student at Sunridge Middle School, who will now read the resolution.
Texas Human Resources Day Resolution. Whereas the Human Resources Division is instrumental in recruiting, selecting, resourcing, and retaining quality staff and support of providing an excellent education for all students. And whereas Human Resources plays a key role in fostering satisfaction and loyalty among employees by allowing for professional growth and development and keeping employees informed about policies, working conditions, compensation, and benefits. And whereas Human Resources monitors and manages current and future workforce trends, organizational culture, legal and legislative trends, and ethical and social responsibilities. And whereas human resources is an important part of district leadership and is vital to overall productivity and efficiency of the district's workforce. And whereas human resources is a valued and respected department that sustains the district's most important asset, its people. Therefore, the Board of Trustees of the Socorro Independent School District does hereby resolve that October 13th, 2021 will be observed as Texas Education Human Resources Day throughout the district. The board also encourages students, staff, and parents to express their appreciation to our human resources team for their dedication and commitment to Socorro SISD students and employees.
Motion to approve?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Reddick.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. We'll move to our next item. Again, open forum, item 7. Once again, I'll go ahead and read. We greatly appreciate those individuals who have requested to speak to the board during open forum. We are bound by certain time constraints in order to cover all the items on the agenda, and therefore must limit presentations to 5 minutes. Please respect the rights of others in your presentation. By law, the board cannot take action upon or discuss any item which is not posted on tonight's agenda, but we will give all presentations our serious consideration. Thank you. Let's proceed to open forum. Our first speaker is Dr. Sylvia Acosta.
Hi, we're coming as a group. I'm Dr. Silvia Acosta with YWCA El Paso del Norte. I'd just like to thank you all for allowing us some time to speak. And with that, I'll turn it over to our immediate past president, Sharon Robinette.
Thank you very much. Throughout the pandemic, the YWCA has not stopped providing a safe place for survivors of domestic violence to call home. In fact, during 2020, the need for YWCA Sarah McKnight Transitional Living Center became greater than ever. The current economic strife and correspondent stress has resulted in an increase of domestic violence, including intimate partner violence and child abuse. Without school, work, or other places of refuge, those experiencing this abuse had few, if any, outlets to escape. Increased community needs compounded by a decrease in funding sources at our Sarah McKnight Transitional Living Center. And it left us with a deficit at the end of 2020-2021 fiscal year of $300,000. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Arthur Westbrook. I've been a member of the YWCA staff for over 13 years. And in my time with the YWCA, I've had a front row view of how this organization changes lives, particularly at our Sarah McKnight Transitional Living Center. Walk a Mile is the International Men's March to Stop Rape, Sexual Assault, and Gender-Based Violence, and is the YWCA's main fundraising event to support the TLC, which provides housing, supportive services for survivors of gender-based violence. I'm proud to join my organization at the 2021 Walk a Mile in Her Shoes event, and I hope the SISD team will join me there. Thank you.
As you can tell, he's already wearing his Walk a Mile shoes. And for those of you who joined us at our last event, many of whom I was talking to earlier said to me that their feet are still sore. So this year, YWCA is inviting everyone to paint the town red at our Walk a Mile celebration. Come take a stand for survivors and support YWCA's Transitional Living Center. SISD's past participation, which I will tell you, SISD had one of the best teams ever participate in Walk a Mile, and we thank you for that. And your continued support will make it possible for hundreds of women and children to receive the safety and the support that they need. Supporting Walk a Mile has impacted beyond fundraising. Advocates around the world have worked for decades to prevent men from perpetrating violence against women and to minimize women's vulnerability to such acts. These efforts, however, have yet to make a major impact on the rates of violence against women because such efforts involve overturning long-held cultural and societal beliefs. Research shows that community mobilizing strategies hold the potential for transforming those social norms and structures that are root causes for domestic violence. And the cultivation of grassroots community leadership, like that of the SISD community, the SISD board, and the SISD staff and students, is what makes a difference in these prevention efforts. In other words, if we're going to end gender-based violence in our community, we need the help from our community. We need the help from SISD. So we ask you today to join us at Walk a Mile in her shoes on October 22nd. This is going to be a very different event. We also invite you to ask your staff to wear red every Friday during the month of October to support efforts against domestic violence. And we invite you October 22nd to walk a mile in our shoes, paint the town red as we celebrate the support of our community with Fungi Mungo, who will be playing at that event. So we invite you, we encourage you, and more than that, we thank you for your past support of Walk a Mile and of YWCA. We cherish our partnership with you. I don't know if you have any questions.
Are we going to have any other speakers? I've got 3 or 4. Okay, we're good to go. Okay, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Our next speaker is Dr. Catherine Kirkendall.
Good evening. I am Dr. Catherine Kirkendall. I am a mom of 5 children with a PhD in engineering. I am here because I want to keep people safe. The data overwhelmingly shows that current mask mandate practices do not accomplish that goal. Mask mandates have not been proven to reduce spread. Peer-reviewed literature analyzing the spread in U.S. states over the last 17 months found no observed decrease in cases associated with mask mandates or mask use. How can this be? The primary mode of transmission of COVID-19 is aerosols, not droplets. In February, a group of aerosol scientists and doctors wrote an open letter to Fauci, Walensky, and Zients, pleading for them to immediately recognize aerosols as the primary mode of transmission of COVID-19. National Nurses United, a labor union of over 170,000 nurses, wrote an open letter to the CDC urging them to immediately update guidelines to reflect aerosol transmission, as their employers were citing CDC guidelines as to why they were offering them inadequate protection. We are utilizing protocols to protect from droplet transmission when droplets are not responsible for spread or severe illness. Droplets are affected by gravity. They behave the same inside or outside. They fall to the ground because of their size, and they deposit in the upper respiratory tract. Aerosols are not affected by gravity. They remain suspended in the air until diluted by ventilation or destroyed by things such as UV or hydroperoxides. They are infinitesimal in size when compared to droplets, and they penetrate into the deep lung where viral replication occurs. There is strong and unequivocal evidence of solely aerosol transmission because only aerosols are affected by ventilation, not surfaces or droplets. These include long-range transmission, distinct difference between indoor and outdoor transmission, transmission despite masks and eye protection, indoor superspreading events, animal experimentation, and airflow simulations. Asbestos particles are 5 microns in size. This is 50 times larger than a COVID particle. Would you wear a face mask to protect you from abating asbestos? According to the FDA and as cited by the CDC, while a surgical mask may be effective in blocking splashes and large particle droplets, a face mask, by design, does not filter or block very small particles in the air. Masks, by design, cannot filter any amount of aerosols. We spread aerosols by just breathing. During inhalation, small airborne contaminants pass through gaps between the face and the face mask and the material of the mask. Masks do not seal. They are not PPE. They do not provide respiratory protection, and they are not any form of source control. Industrial hygienists are the experts in exposure control who educate and train doctors and hospitals on appropriate PPE for epidemics and pandemics. Doctors are not PPE experts. The current mask mandate has been justified by citing Dr. Ocaranza's order. While he may be very knowledgeable in his field of expertise, he is not an expert in exposure control for biological hazards. He should be consulting with experts in industrial hygiene, and if he was, he would know that mask mandates are both ineffective and harmful. I have a long list of physical, emotional, developmental, social, and psychological harms they cause, especially to young children, but today I will name just one: a false sense of security. Parents of children at high risk for severe complications from COVID-19 are led to believe their children are protected as long as everyone wears a mask. Mask mandates offer zero protection for these children. This is dangerous and can lead to dire consequences. The best mitigation strategy we have per the industrial hygiene hierarchy of controls is using engineering controls, namely dilution and destruction technology, to improve air quality while simultaneously providing long overdue health benefits that will extend well beyond the COVID-19 pandemic. These HVAC upgrades could have already been made with money spent on lawsuits and Dr. Espinoza's severance agreement. To summarize, COVID-19 is transmitted via aerosols. Observation has shown that neither masks nor mask mandates offer protection from COVID-19 transmission, which confirms what has always been true for masks and aerosol transmission. While offering zero protection, mask mandates cause children to suffer and offer a false sense of security for those who are truly at high risk for severe complications from COVID-19. We can minimize exposure risk by implementing dilution and destruction technology in the HVAC systems. My goal is the same as yours: to provide a safe learning environment for all teachers, students, and staff. Upgrade the HVAC systems and take the masks off of these kids. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Mr. Tommy Hill.
During last month's board meeting, West Texas Alliance was the first organization to respond to the Families First Coronavirus Symptoms Act, which provided 2 weeks, 80 hours of paid work, employers' regular rate of pay, when the employee, instead of using their sick days. Employees are concerned that they're going to have to use their sick days if they consult the virus. And we hope pretty soon we get a resolution on that and see if that is actually going to be done and actually going to be taken care of for our employees. And on that part. So last week we met with the district administration regarding concerns from our transportation department. This is my second on there. Our concerns is about the out-of-town program. It's temporarily suspended because of the lack of drivers. this is not going to help. This is not going to help us get more drivers by taking stuff away. This is not addition by subtraction. You taking away one of our programs is not going to help anything going on. There is 3 different companies that will take our drivers. We need this program back. We need to keep our drivers. We need to promote this district a lot better than what we're doing. To keep our drivers, to keep new people. We need people to get into HR. This is not the way to get it done. Do not suspend our programs. We need to have our out-of-town program back. Now, you ask, how is, say like a football team, if they got to get a bus and they got to get that bus from a subcontractor, they're not getting that bus for the same price. So what's that going to do to their budget? So from what I hear, apparently ESSER funds are taking care of that. And is that what ESSER funds were for? I don't think so. We need our out-of-town program back. There's 30 bus drivers on that out-of-town program. We need to keep our drivers. We do not need our drivers leaving because you guys took away the out-of-town program. And there is no knowledge of when they were saying they would come back. Said possibly January. Come on, how many drivers are we gonna lose before January? Please, don't be taking our programs away just because they say we can't fill things. We will fill it one way or the other, and we always have. This will pass. But don't let our drivers go because we want to take our programs away. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Hill. Our next speaker is Ms. Angelica Soto.
Good evening, Board President Morales, Interim Superintendent Carmona, and members of the board. I am Angelica Soto, President for the Socorro Education Association. I speak this evening to ask for your support for the 10 days of COVID leave the employees had in the past. Unfortunately, the pandemic is still very much present and continues to infect many students and employees and is also causing many employees and students to go into quarantine. Some employees save their sick leave days for when their children get sick to take care of elderly parents or when they themselves are ill. Not having these COVID sick leave days will impact employees financially because if they exhaust their school sick leave days and must take sick leave, they will lose pay. I know that the Human Resources Department is working on this issue, so I ask that when it is brought up for your consideration, you will approve the COVID sick leave days. Thank you for your support for the employees of SISD.
Thank you, Ms. Soto. That concludes the open forum. We're going to move to item. Do we have someone else? Oh, okay. Coming up. He's our next speaker. We have District Reports Annual Investment Report for fiscal year 2020 and 2021. Mr. Renee Vargas.
Thank you, sir. Good evening, President Morales, Interim Superintendent Ms. Carmona, and members of the board. My name is Renee Vargas. I'm the Director of Business Services. As required by Board Policy CDA Local, I'm here tonight to present to you the year-end investment report for 2020-2021 fiscal year. This report will focus on 3 areas: the investment yields, earnings, and balances. On the first screen, you will see the information on average monthly yields for the 2020-2021 fiscal year. With respect to investment yields, rates started at ranges of 9 to 42 basis points for the investment pools and 0 basis points for Wells Fargo repo account. And just to remind the board, 1 basis point is 1/100th of 1%. The rates decreased for the second quarter to between 7 to 19 basis points. In the period of January through March of 2021, investment yields for the pools continued to remain low to a range of 5 to 16 basis points in response to several interest rate reductions by the Federal Reserve. In the final quarter, the investment pools saw further decreases depending on the pool of 1 to 13 basis points. The current surge in COVID-19 infections caused by the Delta variant is keeping interest rates low. However, the surge is likely to start diminishing in the last quarter of the year, so rates should begin to drift upwards as the economy rebounds. We still project interest rate yields to remain low in short and long-term investments in the upcoming months, but slowly moving upward during the calendar year. We did contact a couple of our investment pools to get a forecast, and even though they did mention that they predict to go high, it's not a significant increase. It's going, say, from 5 to 12 basis points. So it still doesn't look great at all for any investments. On the next slide, a comparison of the interest earned from prior years was prepared for each investment pool. All accounts from each pool are separated to reflect a clear comparison of a particular investment account. With our first pool, we have 11 accounts, and its text pool. It had a total decrease of $837,943. Let me see. Oh, okay. The next slide, we have First Public, and it consists of 13 accounts. It had a decrease of interest earned in the amount of $1,656,587. With respect to interest earnings, as you can see, the slides on text pool and First Public, there are general decreases over last year in most of our categories, to include food service, general fund, interest and sink, and interest and sink. In addition, the principal construction balance in that respective category decreased since most of these projects have been completed. Here you'll see the interest earnings for Wells Fargo and Logic. Wells Fargo operating account, which is our general fund account, we had a $8,297 decrease. The fourth pool, again Logic, consists of 7 accounts, and we had a decrease of $1,635,291. On the screen, we have Texas Term Daily, which consists of 7 accounts, and it had a decrease of $1,644,500. The administration has moved away from long-term maturity investments due to strong indications that there's a continuous soft economy during these times. As exhibited by Texas Term, our 6th pool, where we have 2 accounts, there was no activity for the 2020-2021. For the debt service fund, whereby funds are not needed until the bond payments for February and August, we felt no advantage in maintaining investments in long-term maturity. Therefore, during this period, no long-term investments in Texas Term were administered, and excess funds were not reinvested. The next fund is our Texas FIT, which is our fixed income trust. It's a new pool that we introduced to add to the district's portfolio during the 3rd quarter. It performed well. Interest earnings were $56,192. The district realized approximately $535,000 in interest earnings for all funds. This is a decrease of $7,237,614 from the prior year. Again, this decrease is due to the lower interest yields that are in existence at this time. Finally, what is illustrated is investment balances for the entire year. The district started to earn with principal balances of $561 million, and this decreased to the end of the 1st quarter to $450 million. This is primarily since the district doesn't receive a state revenue payment in August, and we continue to draw down investment balances for operational cash flow needs. This amount increased to $505 million in the second quarter due to the tax collection in December. The balance decreased to $493 million in the third quarter due to the remaining weak economy, and investment balance is decreasing by $101.9 million in the last quarter, ending the balance with $391.1 million. In conclusion, this administration will continue to utilize investment pools using Wells Fargo for repo and investing purposes, as well as no longer investing in long-term maturities until the economy shows signs of recovery. And will endeavor to increase investment yields to minimize the investment risk as well. Are there any questions I may answer?
I have a question by Mr. Michael Nahara. Go ahead, sir.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Vargas, so in looking at that last slide, the beginning balance was 561 million, and then we see what, about $170 million reduction to the fourth quarter? Is that, like when I look at that right away, I want to compare the beginning balance to the ending balance on the graph. Is that a valid comparison, or is the balance just low right now because we paid stuff off, and if something comes in, say in the next month or two, it would be closer to the 561 rather than that what appears to be 170 million decrease?
Yes, sir, and you are correct. What happens is it's just we're drawing down as we go by, and it could be that, you know, within that period for that particular quarter, we just drew more than the prior three.
And then the first graph, of course, shows all yields decreasing, which, you know, I think understanding the market, I would expect, but by our very, I guess, purpose, all our investments are very conservative, right? There's not risk in them. They're low risk pools.
Correct. Our policy calls that we do have to invest in this type of investment, and you're right. We don't have aggressive or it's just more conservative investments that we have, and we do look that they are rated high though.
And then so, really, it's not like we could shift funds to achieve the $7 million returns that, or interest returns that we had before. We just gotta, as most people do, be involved in the market long term, and that when it responds, then we will return to, you know, somewhere between where we're at right now and that $7 million that we got the last year, correct?
Yes, sir. You are correct. And with that said, we did introduce that new Texas Fit because we saw that investment pool qualified for the district to have, that it was slightly better than the others. So we obviously we're expanding, and it did a little better than the others as well.
Thank you, Mr. Vargas.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Nahara, I have a question. Looking at that first graph where we saw a lot of zeros, not a whole lot of interest gained, is it possible for us to look at the possibility of looking at a moderate type fund, something that's safe, that can also perform a little better than that? I know we're locked into those particular funds that were in that first graph. But is there, in your opinion, is there something that we can do that may help our district as far as progress and do a little better?
Yes, sir. In fact, with Wells Fargo, as you can see, it's zero across the board. We did recently just move it to a money market, which is better than zero. It might not be a significant amount, but it's better than just plain zero all across the board.
But I'm talking about alternate funds other than these here. Is it, as a board, I don't know that. I'm asking you your professional opinion, whether there's something out there that can do a lot better and also stay conservative, although we have to look at it being moderate as far as at maybe doing a little better. I'm just,
there are other vehicles, Mr. Morales, but our policy calls to invest in this type of investment. There might be others that maybe are a little better, but in our opinion, it's not enough to make a difference.
Not worth the risk.
Correct.
Okay, I just needed to ask that question.
Sure.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Vargas. We have our next speaker, is Mr. Ianton. He's going to talk about facility reports.
I'm going to take my mask off because my glasses gets fogged. Good evening, President Morales, Interim Superintendent Kimona, members of the board. My report begins on page 22, and I'll have a presentation to show you. Starting with Socorro High School, we are roughly 57% complete with that project. The phases that we opened this summer, we are continually doing warranty work, punch list, and of course we're continuing to work on the next phase of that project, which you'll see in some of the pictures. But we received our kitchen a few weeks ago, so we've been serving out of our new kitchen, and we're doing a lot of demolition work, as I stated, in the 4,000, 5,000, and 6,000 area. And we will begin to do working on the foundation and stuff once we complete the demolition. Of course, these are pictures that you've seen. We are continuing to work on our landscaping to complete that work. It's ongoing. It's not totally complete. You can see the counselor suite, and then the black box. The front of the black box is the facility that we are using now, or the administration is using now for their auditorium, since the auditorium is under construction. And you can see that we're standing in the cafeteria looking towards the black box. And of course, this is a view of the kitchen on the left and the dining room. And then, as I stated, we're beginning our demolition work on our next phase. Montwood High School, we are almost 90% complete with Montwood. We opened the front of the building, the main entrance, the auditorium area, and this is the interior of the new entrance at Montwood. And then we are finalizing the third floor science room. You see that one is completed, is occupied, and then one is under construction. Next is America's High School. We're about 80% complete on America's High School. We continue to work on punch lists on the facilities that we accepted, and then we're working on some demolition on some new areas for the culinary arts. This shows the service area and the fine arts addition along the parent drop-off. And then you can see that we are doing demo work in the culinary and fine arts area. And then these are the new science labs that we occupied this year. Next one is El Dorado High School. We're about 78% complete at El Dorado. Also, a lot of work going around that whole site, but we continue to work on that. You can see that we are expanding the cafeteria and enclosing some of the courtyard for that expansion for the cafeteria, new special ed rooms, and then we're adding on to an end of the building for the gallery wing. The new student activity complex is scheduled to be bid Thursday. We hope that we get a good response. When we had the pre-bid, we had over six general contractor come to the pre-bid, so we will take the proposals. This is an aerial of what it will look like. The building, the orange building down on the bottom is, of course, the new fine arts facility. The long building is the new press box, and then, of course, the stadium with the visitor press concessions on the opposite side. And then this basically shows the whole master plan with the existing SAC and how the new SAC is going to work into that. We are continuing our conversations with the county for the extension of Bob Hope, and that's coming along real well too. Next ones are the auxiliary gym. There is an agenda item a little bit later for package number 1 that I'll be presenting, that we will finalize and close that project out. But bid package 2 is roughly 97% complete. We are finalizing. Of course, we occupied all of the facilities in the bid package number 2 in late August, 1st of September. So we are occupying that, and we're also continuing our punch list on those projects. These are some of the interior and exterior of Phase 2, Loma Verde and Cooper, and then Sarah Vista. Bid package number 3 is our final package for the auxiliary gyms. We're about 86% complete there. We're ahead of schedule on that project, and everything seems to be moving that we will be closing that, or accepting those projects here in the next couple of months to 6 weeks, well ahead of the due date of January, which is the contractual date. And then you can see the Campestre, Escontrias, Hilly, Waco, and then Rojas, which are the 5 schools down in the valley on bid package 3. Support services, our building next door is completed. You're going to accept the keys tomorrow, and we have finalized some of the furniture moved in. You'll see some pictures here in a minute. I've been informed that Mr. Reyna and his department will start their move-in department at a time beginning Monday into the new building. Of course, this is standing in, the one on the left is standing in the front looking towards the new building. The one on the right is inside the building in the flex area. The only area that is not complete, or we do not have, it's completed, but we don't have the seating, is the flex seating in the flexitorium. And that should be coming in towards the end of October. And then you can see Mr. Reyna's conference room. I think we need to hold a board meeting up there next time. And then the main lounge. So we do have furniture in the place, and he will begin his move-in, as I stated, on Monday. Pebble Hills High School on the sports lighting, we are finalizing that. We have done some lighting controls, work on it in the evenings, and we have completed the fencing and the pole installations at both the softball and the baseball field. Eastlake High School is the same situation. It's almost complete. I don't have a percentage down there, but it is almost complete. In fact, we had some of our testing on the field lighting this past week. And then you can see the pole installations and the service to the Eastlake facilities. The new combo school is our school in the Eastlake area. It is over 40% complete, and we are really doing real well on that project. I know that there's a lot of verbiage and stuff on that, but focus on the aerial. The lower portion is the elementary school, and then about halfway in between and everything up towards the upper part of the picture is the middle school. And of course, the elementary school will be open July of 22, and then the middle school will be finished in December, but we will not move into it until July of 23. Elementary, typical classrooms, a lot of HVAC work, rough ends and final ends and texturing of the sheetrock, getting it dried in. You can see the main entrance to the elementary school with the drywall and the studs going up. And then, of course, the middle school gym and the middle school classroom wing with the structural steel being installed. That completes my facility report.
Thank you, Mr. Arrington.
Any questions?
Questions?
Yes, I
ahead,
got a
Mr.
question. For Socorro, I walked the high school the other day, and I noticed that, and maybe this is for Mr. Reyna, but I saw there were still projectors missing in in the classrooms. Where do we stand on those?
Do you know which classrooms? I think we still have around 3 classrooms, sir, that are waiting electrical work, and we're trying to do that work done before we complete them. But the projectors are here.
Okay, those 3 classrooms that you're talking about, those are the drop cables that they need for the electrical and internet, though, correct?
Yeah,
Okay.
there's piping there that needs to be completed.
Okay, when are we looking at getting that done, sir?
I'll have to get with the BTC and the CM on that, to see when that is completed, if they're waiting on a electrical hookup and stuff. Is that what they're waiting? Yeah.
Because those are the 3 computer labs, correct? That you're referring to, Mr. Reina?
Yeah, there's, I don't know if there's a computer, but there's 3 classrooms that my team told me that they're still waiting for that, sir. It's the same classrooms.
Okay. Yeah, I just want to make sure if we can get that done as soon as possible, just so that the kids can utilize their, I mean, that class is intended for, so.
Absolutely.
And then, Mr. Ianton, I know we had discussed this before, was at Americas, those nets, and I know you showed one of the fine arts room right next to the baseball field or the softball field, the foul balls. There were some concerns there with potentially breaking that glass.
Correct. And we hadn't heard of any. So we hadn't been informed by the administration.
So we're not looking at putting any nets?
Not at this time, no.
I've asked before, and there's been balls stuck up on the roof, so.
Well, I mean, there was nothing in the construction contract for fencing and stuff. So if it becomes an issue, then we have to look at it internally to see if we can put more netting up. But I have not heard of anything from the administration on it. But I'll check with them.
Any other questions? Yes, Ms. Nahara.
Do you think it would be possible in the near future for us to be able to arrange a tour for the board? Mr. Reina's building? No, I'm kidding. Our technology building?
Sure, we can arrange a tour of it, a walkthrough, or just let me know. Get with Mr. Cremona and let me know, and we can definitely give you a tour.
Sounds great. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. I was also privileged to get out to see the technology building. Thank you for the tour just prior to it opening. So it is beautiful. It really is outstanding. So it will have something, now it's complete with furniture, so I'm also excited to see it again. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Harrington. Next item on the agenda is consent agenda. Are there any items to be pulled at this time?
91 and 9E6.
Again, can I have those again? 9?
9 Delta 1, 9 Echo 6.
That, there's only 5. Could that be 5, that item there? The second one you said?
I believe it's 9E6.
That's what he said. He said Echo.
9E6. Thank you. I'm sorry, it's kind of hard to hear with our mask.
And 9E1, please.
There were just 2, correct?
For me, yes.
9E1.
6. Okay, I got D1.
Motion to approve consent excluding the 3 items requested.
Okay. I've got any other questions on that before? I'm sure we don't. Okay. I've got a motion by Mr. Michael Naha and a second by Mr. Eddie Mena. Motion to approve. We have a motion. I'm sorry. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The motion carries. We're going to go back to those items that were pulled. Go Go ahead, Ms. Carmona, give them to me. We're going to go to 9D1, which is employee benefits consulting services. Is there anybody here that can, Mr. Ressa, go ahead. And Mr. Carmona.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. I believe it was, when we talked, it was going to, we were looking at the hub, correct? That was the one that was being looked at?
Yes, sir. That's ranked number one in the recommendation.
And one of the questions I did forget to ask was, what is it that they're going to offer us compared to the other companies that they're not offering us?
So what we're looking at is, these are fine companies. The thing is that what we liked about Hub is that they're local. Now, the other firm that's local is also number 4 USI, but Hub was a local vendor, number one. Number two, they offered a very competitive price. It was the lowest. Number three, they had history with other school districts. They're the health benefits consultant for, I believe, El Paso ISD, Canotillo ISD. I think there's another school district that they are consultant for. So we felt those attributes certainly provided us to look with and recommend this particular company as a number one ranking. The other firms that we've used Gallagher, we've used USI, we haven't used the Griff, but we felt that that's why we ranked them number one. Now, I can speak for myself, but there's other members of the committee, but I surely can have, if Mr. Carmona wants to add anything else to that, Mr. Carmona?
Good evening, Board President, Mr. Morales, Interim Superintendent, Ms. Carmona, Board members. My name is Mario Carmona, Director of Employee Benefits and Risk Management. Just to add to what Mr. Ressa mentioned, it's one of the highlights of the company is that we will be able to purchase on the need basis. So as best practice, we notice that we'll be able to pay for additional services if and when needed. At this point, based on what they are offering, it does meet the needs of the school district.
Okay. And in the process, are they going to take into consideration, our employees, the benefits? Because some of them, we got janitors, we got cafeteria workers, our teachers, stuff like that. Everybody's in a different situation, just to make sure that we're not going to put them in a financial situation where it can hurt them. And now it's just not a good situation. I'm trying to look out in the best interest of our, I'll say, frontline employees out there. So.
Absolutely. And just for clarification, we are a self-funded health plan. So it's up to the school district to make decisions in terms of plan design to include rates. Our consultant, what they would do is come in, or our current consultant, what they do is look at our data, look at our experience has been as a group, forecast based on that, and then come back and do recommendations based on that information. If that's something that the board and the school district would move forward with, then that would be something that we would adopt, again, since we're self-funded.
Yeah, if I can add. Like Mr. Carmona said, Mr. Barrera, bottom line is this consultant will help us to make recommendations, but we present it to the board. We present these recommendations. And the board will decide whether you accept those recommendations or prefer something different. But this company will certainly allow us to make some recommendations, look at our healthcare plan, to make sure that we can kind of mitigate some of the downward trend with respect to the expenses that we're incurring. I hope.
Okay, you mentioned that they work with the El Paso Independent School District.
I believe they're the healthcare consultant for the El Paso Independent School District. Now, El Paso ISD used to be with TRS Active Care. They still are. But what they did is they piggybacked off of one of our bids to provide a healthcare plan that's from the district. And so they have two competing plans right now, so to speak.
Well, then based on that, how well are they at mitigating the cost of any insurance increase or decrease in benefits?
Are we talking about the consultant, or are you talking about the school district?
Yes.
They certainly recommend certain options and certain strategies with respect to the benefit plan to be able to mitigate someone's expenses. And it's presented to the board for your consideration and approval. They can make certainly changes. They can look at analysis. They look at the numbers and say, look, if we make a reduction or a change in this particular deductible amount or on certain other hospitalization costs, we can certainly generate possible savings. They can hopefully provide us some additional consulting with respect to our clinic and see what we can do to maybe mitigate some of the costs from that end. And I think, Mr. Barrera on Thursday's Finance Committee said, look, and he mentioned the same thing. I certainly want to make sure that we don't negatively impact our employees. And one of the ways we can do that is by just doing a better job, and we are doing a good job, but certainly enhancing the clinic by, allowing our employees to go there and access that at a very minimal cost, so to speak. So I hope that answered your question, Mr. Castellanos. Would you like to add anything else, Mr. Goodman?
Yes, if I may, in addition to the tool that Mr. Reza just mentioned, which was the implementation of the employee clinic, there's many other features that we could possibly bring over and present on and for your consideration. That could include additional sites for possibly have another site to be able to provide something similar to a primary care services, wellness programs, premium incentives, and so on and so forth. So we do have a list, a menu of items that we could possibly present on and for you to consider. Absolutely.
When you mention the savings, it's the savings for the district or the savings for the employees?
It's for both.
Yes.
Again, we are self-funded, so when we look at data, we need to consider both. Because in order for us to be able to have a substantial amount of money within the health fund to be able to pay our medical expenses as a group, we need to look at both. So it's a combination of things.
I know, and Mr. Hill talked earlier about losing drivers. I mean, this is one of the diamond nuggets the district has, is that healthcare program, and it attracts people. And I know we're having trouble filling some of these ranks, and we don't want to, and I know there's a concern from all the employees that if this rate goes up, do I stay here or just go to East Led or somewhere else? We don't want to lose personnel, and this is something that really attracts our personnel, and we need to hang on to that as much as possible, as best as possible as we can.
If I may make, Mr. Castellano, you're absolutely correct. We use our benefits as one of the recruiting tools. And yes, our health plan, our benefits, to include the clinic, is one of those features that we pride on and we use to be able to incite applicants to come by and visit us and consider Socorro ISD for employment. Absolutely, yes.
I'm gonna add something else. And I know I had mentioned it before a couple committees ago about like wellness programs and like a satellite. And I know it was discussed this past committee meeting where possibly another satellite close to here, we could utilize that to help our employees so they don't have to travel so much, or they just probably live down here, to include potentially maybe moving the pharmacy, or I guess create a runner to bring the meds over here for the employees as well.
That's absolutely correct. We can certainly look at those I guess, strategies, so to speak.
Absolutely, yes.
And that would also help mitigate the cost if we were to go that route too?
Yes, so one of the advantages that we have in respect to pharmacy is that we dispense generics, which are typically your least expensive when it comes to prescriptions. And we started a pilot program for staff, let's say for this particular location, where someone from the pharmacy or from the clinic will deliver the prescriptions here at the DSC. So yes, absolutely, that's something else that just to make that availability in terms of the services, yes, we can.
Go ahead, Mr. McNair.
Mr. Carmona, ultimately, the purpose of engaging this organization is so that they can evaluate our data, identify the opportunities for us so that we can then choose whether we pursue them or not. All they come back is with recommendations. We dictate what is important, whether is it cost to the employee, benefit package, and all the alternatives that they offer us, of course, is going to be for cost savings. It typically is, and opportunities that we can pursue to try and, if not reduce the cost, actually to maintain them. That's exactly what they're going to do, and that's why they look at our claims history. Is that correct?
That is correct. So the goal is to be able to have a healthy health fund and for us to be able to have enough funds within that pool of money to pay for all those medical expenses, to include prescriptions. Yes, sir.
Right, and it's not on the screen anymore, but the previous company, what was the name of, or
Our consultant, Gallagher.
what was that?
Gallagher,
Oh, Gallagher. And how long had we been with them?
I want to say 3 years.
Okay, just curious, sir.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Other discussion at this time? Do I have a motion here?
Barrera, pull the item.
I'll make a motion.
I have a motion by Mr. Pablo Barrera and a second by Mr. Castellano. Is there any question? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The motion carries. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
I want to make sure about this next item that was pulled. I believe it was item 9E1. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
I just wanted to pull this item. No one has to come up. I just wanted to pull it because it was for America's High School. I want to give them a shout out because this is a Adopt a Highway program. And I want to give kudos to Mr. Hawkins, I believe, or Mr. Moncada, I believe. And they're going out there for TxDOT, and they're going out there in the streets. They're picking up the debris and the litter. So I just wanted to give them a shout out and commend them on the whole group and what they're doing out there. A job well done. So thank you to Mercus High School, NJ, RTC. Thank you. That's it. Make a motion to approve.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Paul Guerra and a second by Mr. Pablo Barrera. Any other questions? Anything? Go ahead. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? The motion carries. The next item that was pulled was item 9E6, which is, go ahead and read that really quick.
Yes, sir, Mr.
We got,
Barrera.
go ahead, Tyler Technologies, additional software and related services. Go ahead, sir.
When we had the only thing I didn't ask, and it stood in my mind once the committee meeting was done, was if we approve this, are they gonna align with our teachers, whatever their TEKs are, or is this gonna be something different? So is it gonna be a smooth transition from the classroom to the virtual conference and then back to the classroom? I guess this is maybe more of a curriculum question.
Yeah. So this is E1, which is a Tyler Technology, additional software and related services. That has to do with a service that we're with respect to recovery services. And so that wouldn't pertain to the curriculum. It would pertain certainly to the PEMS information and finance information should we need to access offsite our information.
Okay.
And so.
That was my fault, yeah, you're right, okay. I'll make a motion to approve.
Thank you.
Have a second? Second. We have a second. We have a motion to approve by Mr. Pablo Barrera and a second by Mr. Castellano. No further discussion? All those in, yes, go ahead, sir.
Mr. Reina, just a confirmation to be sure I understand this. So essentially, the services that we are contracting for is if we were to have a major failure here where we would lose servers, memory, storage, et cetera, then we would be able to go to Tyler and they would be able to return that information to us. Is that correct?
It is correct. What we're going to do within 24 hours, we'll have the ability to run our finance and HR department and also PEMS department. Absolutely.
I haven't recently lost my laptop computer with absolutely no backup. I know just how important that is. So,
yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Right.
Thank you, Mr. We're going to go ahead and rehash it. A motion was made by Mr. Pablo Barrera and a second by Mr. Castellano. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's right. Our next item is new business. Item A, consider approval of a new combo school name recommendation. Our presenter would be Ms. Marta C. Carmona.
President Morales, and members of the board, as per policy CW, I am making the recommendation on this item based on the Community Task Force's report. Administration recommends the board to consider the names identified by the new school naming task force. As presented during our meeting last month, the task force identified the top community nominations for consideration. For the middle school, the sole name recommendation is East Lake Middle School. For the elementary school, the task force submitted its top 2 names, and in order of their preference, they are number 1, Ben Narbuth Elementary School, and number 2, Alberto M. Aragon Elementary School.
Go ahead, you have a question? Go ahead, Ms. Nahara.
I would just like to thank our naming task force for taking on this huge job. I mean, as hard as it is for us, I can only imagine how hard it was for them to narrow this down. I think they've done an amazing job. I personally have had the privilege of being a member of Horizon City Kiwanis with Ben Narbuth, and he was just this amazing giving person back to our district. He single-handedly did the Terrific Kids program in not only our district, but in Clint and San Ellie as well. And he attended countless Terrific Kid ceremonies to encourage our students and congratulate them. In fact, and this is a little embarrassing, when Mr. Narbuth had to step back because of health reasons, it took 2 of us to replace him to do the job that he has always done. And on that note, I'd like to make a motion to go with the committee's recommendation for the elementary school to be named after Ben Narbuth. And
Second that. I have a motion by Ms. Cynthia Nahara and a second by Mr. Eduardo Mena. Any other questions? No.
I was just going to ask if we can just, I don't know if you all would accept an amended recommendation, but my recommendation would be a motion to accept the recommendations, the number 1 recommendations, making the name of the middle school East Lake Middle School, and the name of the elementary school Ben Narbuth Elementary School.
I'm good with that.
Is that good with that? Okay, then our motion, we have a motion then that was made by Mr. Nahara, and a second by Ms. Cynthia Nahara. And all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The motion carries. Our next item.
Mr. President, as information only, policy CW also outlines the identification of a school mascot and colors. Specifically, it states that I will convene a group of stakeholders to make recommendations for my consideration. For efficiency, we tasked the new school naming task force with making this recommendation as well. With the name approved by the board of East Lake Middle School and from the recommendation of the task force, the new middle school mascot will be ravens, and the colors will be purple, silver, and black. With the approved name approved by the board for Ben Narbuth Elementary School, and from the recommendation of the task force, the new elementary school mascot will be the jackrabbits, and the colors will be blue and gold. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Carmona. We're going to move to item 10B, consider approval renaming Montwood High School's gymnasium after Coach Miriam L. Bennett. Mr. Daniel Escobar.
Yes, good evening once again, President Morales, Mrs. Carmona, and trustees. Policy CW outlines the process for both naming new schools and naming or dedicating existing facilities. Following the policy, a recommendation was received by the Montwood High School administration to rename the existing blue gym after a former coach. The recommendation has been reviewed by the campus SIT, or school improvement team, and our district cabinet. Montwood Principal Carlos Guerra is here to share the recommendation and request your approval to rename the Montwood Blue Gym in honor of Coach Miriam Bennett. Mr. Guerra.
I'm a little shorter. Good evening, President Morales, Interim Superintendent, Mrs. Carmona, and the rest of the board. I am Carlos Guerra, the proud principal of Montwood High School. As mentioned by Mr. Escobar, I am here to propose the renaming of our blue gym for Coach Miriam Bennett. A little bit of insight on Coach Bennett. Coach Bennett was the head volleyball coach at Montwood High School from 1990 to 2006. During her career, not only was she the head volleyball coach, she was also the department head for our health department. In addition to that, during her career as a volleyball coach, she won 4 district championships, 4 by-district championships, got the team also into the by-district playoffs, in 1993 area championship, a regional quarterfinal champions, and a regional semifinals qualifier. During her time, some of the recognitions she achieved as the head volleyball coach at Montwood was that she was the El Paso Times Coach of the Year in 1993, 1994, and 1998. She was also inducted into the El Paso Athletic Hall of Fame in 1996. She was Montwood High School Teacher of the Year in 2005, and Ring of Honor inductee for Montwood High School in 2009. Overall, throughout her career, which spans over 45 years, Coach Bennett has been the 6-time El Paso Times Coach of the Year, Santa Teresa Coach of the Year, Las Cruces Coach of the Year, El Paso Women's and Sports Coach of the Year, El Paso Women's Caucus Woman of the Year in Sports Award, and she has over 1,053 career wins in her career. I'm hoping that you accept the proposal on behalf of Montwood High School. Do you guys have any questions?
Motion to approve renaming the blue gym to Miriam L. Bennett.
Second.
If no further discussion, we have a motion by Mr. Eduardo Mena and a second by Mr. Ricardo Castellano. Motion to approve. We have all those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? The motion carries.
Thank you very much. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Figuera.
Our next item is item 10C, consider approval of TASB update 117 and local policy. Presenter, Ms. Maribel Macias.
President Morales, Interim Superintendent, Ms. Carmona, members of the board. Administration recommends consideration and approval of revisions to the following policies, which are found at the beginning of your board book or on page 332, which is TASB update policies in 117, which is CH, CV, and DEC, local policies BED, CR, and FL. And for your information only, we have also included exhibits BBD and BED. Request for your approval at this time.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a question here, from Mr. Ricardo Castellano.
I know you had some for information only, and you didn't put regulation DEAA that we went over, and there was some additions on that. Just to inform the public, there was an additions made, and my concern was, well, of course, the stipend and the amount that was placed here, just to let the public know that we made this addition. I know it's a regulation, but it's still, the public will not have any knowledge of it. It should have been information, just like you put here, for your information only, and added that into the agenda item. Why wasn't that added?
Mr. Castellano, was that for our regulation EEB?
DEAA.
DEAA. What we could definitely do is we could add it for next month if the board recommends. It is an exhibit.
Yes.
So exhibits or regulations are just for information. If you go to our webpage, all regulations are on there, which are information that is provided to the community. If you all would like, I could provide it to board packet on Friday. Please provide me direction. Usually here,
It's just for transparency.
Yes, sir.
You know, yes, the board has no, we don't approve it, but it allows the public to say this was added and let them be aware. If they're concerned, they can look it up and they can know. Otherwise, it would never get to them, or they would not understand if this thing was even amended or adjusted.
Okay. And that is where, again, we usually do not put exhibits or regulations on here. If that's something that the board would like to do differently, we could you all could give us a directive or vote on that. But currently for agenda items, it's usually just the local policies that we add. The reason we added the exhibits was because it directly impacted the verbiage, like for example, Exhibit BED. Mr. Morales will be reading that in the future if BED local is approved. That will be the statement that is read before any open forum items. And the item BBD exhibit, that was a recommendation made by TASB directly to add it for transparency. So please, board, give me direction of how you would like us to proceed as far as administratively.
Yeah,
We can discuss, it's just for transparency.
Yes, sir.
And that's my,
we have for further
just so that
discussion.
people will know that this was added.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Morales?
Go ahead, sir.
Mr. Macias, so to help, just again for clarity, the reason we included BBD and BED is simply because the policies that we're updating make reference to those specific policies. So without that, you don't get a complete picture to those other two, right?
Yes, sir.
I believe in the policy committee, when we revise regulations, those are reviewed there. Is that correct? Those are presented there?
Yes, sir. Thank you for your
So-
clarification.
Yeah, while we do, I mean, whether we update, change that process, find a mechanism in which to increase transparency, the public right now can be informed because we do have a policy meeting monthly, and our policy meeting agendas are published, and the agenda does specify exactly which policies and regulations are reviewed during those meetings. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and I just wanted to clarify because I want to be sure that, the community, those who are watching, et cetera, do know, provide some instruction, some direction, that if they want to go see exactly what we discuss and what is presented to us and how something is changed, that it would be communicated there. And therefore, they can go back even historically as well.
Yes, sir.
As well as in the body, every change that is made, the dates are reflected when those policies are updated, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. Thank you. I just want to make sure that I understood what the process was and that nothing had changed. Thank you.
Yes, and I'm just trying to, I know the process, it just, if you put it for information only, then we're not discussing it here anyway. It's just to let them know this was added too. People don't follow the policy committee because it's not on the internet going out right now. So it should just be part of transparency, and we can discuss that later.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
That's it.
If it was on the internet, they wouldn't follow it anyway.
Well, that's just
Policy committee's not exciting.
It's not exciting. That's why.
Well, I like it, but generally, policy committee is not exciting. Discussing policy is not extremely exciting.
I'm getting hurt, sir.
Well, it's because you don't have pictures of roofs. That's what it is.
And Mr. Morales, if I may.
Go ahead, Ms.
And like Mr. Castellano said, for information only, and it's something that can certainly be discussed. I don't believe we can add it to our agenda because regulations aren't approved by the board. But, I mean, there's certainly ways that we could look at.
Yeah, but it's just like it
being
says, for your
transparent.
information only, like BBD is not approved, and it's just information. That's why I'm just going, well, we'll discuss that, but thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank
Thank
you. No further discussion. I believe I'm going to recap this. Mr. Eduardo Mena made a motion, and a second was made by Mr. Ricardo Castellano. Is that correct? Did you make a second?
Well, I'll make the second, yeah, we'll
Okay.
approve it, yeah. Just,
Unless someone else did. I believe.
I didn't know there was a second.
It was Ms. Nahara. I'm sorry. I apologize.
Doesn't matter.
So we have a second by Ms. Nahara. Are those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The motion carries. Thank you,
Thank you,
Ms.
sir.
Macias. Item 10D, consider approval of final contract sum for the new auxiliary gyms at Benito Martinez, Elfidia Chavez, Helen Ball, Lujan Chavez, O'Shea Keller, and Sergeant Roberto Udarte Elementary Schools. Bid package 1, BP hyphen 1. Go ahead, Mr. Ide.
Yes, good evening again, President Morales and Interim Superintendent Carmona and members of the board. On page 367 is the information board agenda item. As with all construction projects, when they are completed, and I mentioned this in my facility report, administration has to bring the information back to the board to approve the final contract sum and the payment. So as stated in CV local facility construction, the district shall not make the final payment for construction or supervision or the supervision of construction until the work has been completed by the board and the board has accepted the work. The facility planning department has completed our due diligence on the new auxiliary gym bid package 1 and presents the following contract sum, deductive change order, final contract sum, and final payment for the board acceptance. The original contract sum was $7,791,000. A deductive change order in the amount of $100,752.88 was issued for approval, and it has been signed by the interim superintendent, bringing the final contract sum to $7,690,247.12, with a final payment due to the contractor in the amount of $381,377.36. Based on acceptance of tonight, we will issue that check pending approval of the board. Administration recommends approval as presented.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Eduardo Mena and a second by Ms. Cynthia Nahara. Are there any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? The motion carries. And Mr. Ianton, you'll be up there for the next item, which is item E. Consider approval of change order to America High School's improvements for the cafeteria furniture graphic from ADU Source Corporation in the amount of $377,978.34. Go ahead, sir.
Yes, as we have done in previous projects, Montwood High School, we did the graphics and the furniture in that project. We were able to complete that project without a change order. And the only reason why I'm presented it in form of a change order is that it's under the general contractor, Baines General Construction. And we have funding in it under our fixture, furniture, and equipment budget, but it was not included in Baines' initial guarantee maximum price or contract sum. So I think this is a kind of a perspective of what it's going to look like at America's High School. We did enlarge the cafeteria quite a bit. A lot of it is furniture or cafeteria tables, and it's all movable. And then you can see some close-up of it. This is all movable furniture, tables and chairs and stuff that can be moved around, and you can open up the space a little bit more. Yeah, those are the pictures. So by doing this, we'll take the money from FF&E, our fixture, furniture, and equipment, and move it into the construction budget for the approval, based on the board approval. Administration recommends approval of the amount of $377,978.34.
Motion to approve.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Pablo Barrera and a second by Mr. Eduardo Mena. All those opposed? I'm sorry, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Well, the motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Ianton.
I'm still up.
Sir?
I'm still up.
there.
You got another one coming in. Let me see. It'll be item 10F. Consider approval of Terracon Consultants Incorporated, Terracon for the construction material testing for Socorro High School's improvements Phase 2. Go ahead, sir.
Yes, as the construction continues in the phases, and we have to have a third-party inspection company come out there to do all of our material testing during the construction. And with the next phase coming aboard, Terracon is proposing $276,504 for that work. As I stated, we are required to have a third-party inspection company to conduct all these tests. And both the architects and the construction manager has reviewed the price, and administration recommends approval as presented.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Got a motion by Mr. Pablo Barrera and a second by Ms. Cynthia Nájera. Any further discussion?
Morales.
Go ahead, sir.
Mr. Arrington, I don't think I've seen a testing contract outside of, typical construction. Why is this one different? Why is this one coming to us when we haven't seen?
We
or at
have
least-
them on all of ours.
But is it like part of the original package? And
Yes, sir.
so this one
Yeah.
just didn't come to us, or is coming to us now because it's a phased approach? I guess that's my question.
No, the first portion of it did come to the board prior to you coming on board. It was approved. And then this is the second, going into the second phase, which is the second portion.
So
But of
just
all of our projects.
Standard procedure.
Yes, yes, sir.
Okay.
Once again, to recap, we had Mr. Pablo Barrera make the motion, a second by Ms. Cynthia Nájera. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The motion carries. And I know you're going to be up for the next item here.
Yes.
It'd be item 10G, consider approval of the SISD bus canopy structure, CSP number 2216. Go ahead, sir.
Yes, this is the second to the last project in the 2017 bond that will actually, with the SAC being out for proposal, that's the third one. And then we have one more project out of the 2017 bond that we are still in design phase. With the approval of the bus canopy structure, I believe there was some questions about the size of it. And I think I've got a drawing of it. You can see the two shaded building, and then the area in between is where the canopy structure is going to occur. And it's 40 feet wide by 80 feet long. And that gives you a little bit larger. You drive into one end of it, and then this is kind of like what it's going to look like. The upper portion is kind of a perspective from the end. So, like I stated, we had two proposals. We're recommending Bain's general contract for the project in the amount of $398,400. Both of the proposals came within the budget, so we are within the budget on this project. Administration recommends approval.
Motion to approve.
Second. Mr. Morales, I have a question.
We have a question here before we make the motion.
Mr. Arrington, when is this project supposed to start and finish?
Well, Mr. Blanco is working on the contract. As soon as he gets that and I get it executed with the signature, it should start here, I would say, by the end of October. Okay. And then it's 120 days to complete.
It's pretty quick then.
Yes.
Okay, that's it. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I got one more question.
Go ahead, Mr.
How many buses are going to fit in there?
I believe they will handle 2 buses.
Side by side or?
Yeah, side by side. Mm-hmm.
No further discussion. We had a motion by Mr. Pablo Barrera and a second by Mr. Eduardo Mena. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Arrington. And finally, item 10H, discussion and possible board action of proposals for redistricting of SISD member districts. Our presenter is Mr. Steve Blanco.
Good evening, Board President Morales, Interim Superintendent Ms. Carmona, and board members. At a prior meeting, in discussing the need for potential redistricting work, the board had received a proposal from the firm that previously performed this work for the district, and it relates this time to the 2020 census. So at the completion of the census, and in the event that certain population growths or movement of population between the board's single-member districts have to be evaluated, and if there's a need to restructure those districts, they have to be redrawn. So we had recommended to the administration that consultants be engaged to perform that work. We don't perform that work. The firm that had previously done this work was Bickerstaff, Heath, Delgado, and Acosta. I think some of the board members might have been on the board at that time. I think maybe Mr. Nahara, Mrs. Nahara, and Mr. Guetta. So you might remember them. The proposal did not have a total not to exceed amount, and I believe Mr. Nahara had asked that the administration go out and see if there were other potential firms that might be interested in doing that work and how the price would compare. So that work was done. I want to thank Ms. Macias and the rest of the staff for helping with that. I didn't solicit those proposals. The administration did. We have them back, and you have a summary. We had 3 different groups that submitted proposals for this. Obviously, the Bickerstaff Heath Delgado Acosta LLP group, they provided a not-to-exceed amount of $37,500. They included within that all travel expenses, other expenses, which would be additional expenses, preparation of materials, copies, faxes, items that would be hard good costs are not included. Those are additional expenses. Every single firm that proposed has that line item as an additional expense. They proposed to complete this work in November of 22. We are way ahead of the curve on getting this reviewed, proposed, and worked on, which is good because it's going to be necessary, we believe. The second firm was Sarah Leone Associates, PLLC. They did not provide a not-to-exceed amount. I know that an effort was made by Mr. Garcia's group to reach out to them and secure a not-to-exceed amount. They did not provide one by the deadline that was requested, so we don't know what theirs would be. Their other fees are in line and similar to the other firms. Again, plus expenses. They proposed to finish it very quickly in January of 2022. I'm not sure why their timeline was so much different, but they also had travel time as a cost that they were adding into the contract proposal. And then the final proposal was from Thompson Horton LLP, who also has done work for the school district, also a very good firm. They included a not-to-exceed amount of $30,000. When you add in their proposed travel expenses of $7,000, their not-to-exceed hard cost would be $37,000 total. They also have hard expenses as additional items, just like the other firms, and they propose the same timeline as the Bickerstaff Heath Delgado Costa firm of November 22. One additional item in the line items, meetings with the board and trustees to consider and review the proposals or the need for redistricting. The Bickerstaff group says it will take 4 meetings, and Thompson Horton's recommending 6 to 8 meetings. I don't know if that matters to the board. That's just kind of work in progress as they get to review the numbers and meet with the board members. You all actually have some input into the redistricting and the drawing of the lines and movement of population groups. So that's something that you consider during these meetings. How many it ultimately requires would be up to whichever consulting firm you hire. These are all law firms, and how many meetings you ultimately think that you need. So it is for you all to consider and decide if you want to choose between these 3 firms, to make a selection regarding an engagement of one of these firms to provide the necessary redistricting services. They're required by law, and we need to have it done. So it is necessary, and you need to decide which one you would like to choose. Are there any questions? Did you all have
We have a question here by Mr. Michael Nahara. Go ahead, sir.
Was there a significant difference? I mean, okay, so I'm extremely disappointed that Sierra Leone and Associates didn't provide a not-to-exceed amount. That's the only reason we went back to Bickerstaff, Heath, and Delgado and Acosta, because they didn't provide one, and so we requested one, and yet they responded and didn't provide one. So, I mean, to me, that's like an incomplete proposal, because that's why we went back to begin with. So, and it also, I mean, you can't make an informed decision because they list the fees there, but you never know what your maximum exposure is. For the other two, just for simplicity, Bickerstaff and then Thompson, was there a significant difference in, and I mean, it's a pretty standard process, so I don't expect that there would be.
No, so the total budgeted hard costs, if you look at the Bickerstaff Heath Delgado Costa group, they have it at $37,500. That includes travel expenses. They do have a local presence here. They perform the city county tax collection work, which includes us. So they do that work for y'all already. The Thompson Horton is a $30,000 fee plus $7,000 in expenses. So the actual hard cost difference between the two is $500. There is a difference in rates though. So Bickerstaff Heath Delgado Costa has quoted rates of between $420 and $480 an hour, and Thompson Horton is quoting a rate of $330 an hour for additional lawyer time. That would be time that would be necessary beyond the budgeted work and the scope of work that was provided by the district. It is expected that both of these firms would be able to complete the work within the $37,500 for one and $37,000 for the other. But if something comes up where additional legal services are required, additional consulting work is required, they have given you the quoted rates. So there is a difference in the rates.
Looking, I know the natural tendency, at least my natural tendency, is to look at the hourly rate, but when you're looking at the totals, I mean, we're talking about the difference of $500 because one has a not to exceed amount of $30,000 plus $7,000 travel expenses, and the other one basically all inclusive at $37,500. So it just, I mean, to me, when I look at that, it's like, okay, well, you know, one firm rolls in their travel expenses and, you know, into their hourly rate so that they don't have to itemize everything, whereas the other one, you know, just keeps it separately because a lot of people do have the natural tendency. And having worked in the consulting field, I know it's the hourly rate that people focus on, no matter if the you know, final cost across several proposals is always the same. You know, it's the hourly rate and not all the individual components that tend to be. Okay. So again, no big difference in what they would do.
No.
Okay.
Any other questions for Mr.
Well, having been satisfied with the services that Bickerstaff, Heath, Delgado, and Acosta have provided to us before, I move to continue the services with the firm that has provided those services to us before, which is Bickerstaff, Heath, Delgado, Acosta LLP.
Mr. Nader, just one question. Right off the bat, and we're looking at, there is a difference of $500 on the exceed amount. And then on the hourly rate, we're looking at $150 difference from the 480 to 330. So we're looking at $650 total. And we're looking at the hourly rate. So we're looking at $650 off the bat on the hourly rate. Bickerson staff, Heath Delgado, we haven't dealt with them, I think, it's been 10 years.
That's the last time the census came out and you redistricted, correct?
And we've dealt with Thompson and Horton before. We used them before for, we used Thompson and Horton before, I believe.
So you actually, so the district currently uses the Bickerstaff Heath group through the consortium contract for tax collection work. They're currently counsel for the district for that specialized area of work. Thompson and Horton also provides legal services to the district on specialized need basis. Things that my firm doesn't do. Occasionally I think Dr. Espinosa had them for some training items that they conducted, but not regular legal work. Thompson Horton doesn't provide regular legal services to the district, not right now.
Didn't we use them for a couple of years ago or just recently for other cases as well? I mean, not for redistricting, but
No, not litigation. We handle all the litigation. The only other area of legal services where we bring in other lawyers would be for special education services. The initial part of it, when they get to litigation, we generally get involved in the litigation.
Do you think that we're going to need more than 4 meetings?
I don't have an opinion on that. I wouldn't expect, but it's possible. Okay, before my time, Mr. Ressa was telling me that with the Padilla, this former superintendent Padilla, they conducted a
Padilla,
follow-up.
yes.
They conducted a follow-up investigation and delivered a report to the board. The council at the time would have been conflicted out of that, having worked with that former superintendent. Yeah.
I second.
Do you want to go ahead and restate your motion, so we got a little bit?
Want to restate it? I think we're waiting for a second. If we don't get a second,
We got a
then-
second. Okay. Any other further question? We got a motion by Mr. Michael Nahara and a second by Ms. Cynthia Nahara. All those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
All those opposed? The motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Blanco.
Thank you.
We're going to move to item 11, executive session. The meeting is to be closed for consultation with legal counsel to receive and consider the level 3 grievance appeal filed by DE, to review board operating procedures, to discuss personnel and real estate matters, and to consider administrative recommendations for principal positions at Pebble Hills High School and Colonel John O. Enzer Middle School, assistant principal positions at Eastlake High School, Socorro High School, and Sergeant Jose F. Carrasco Elementary School, and employee health clinic physician assistant under Texas Government Code Section 551.071.551.072 and 551.074. The board will move to executive session. The time is 7:51. We are back in session. The time is 9:14. We'll move to item 12, new business. Discussion and possible action regarding the Level 3 grievance appeal filed by DE. Our presenter is Mr. Steve Blanco.
Thank you, Board President Morales, Interim Superintendent Ms. Carmona, members of the board. In the closed session, I gave you the background record for the grievance that was filed by employee DE. It is at this meeting that you just receive it. You have until the next meeting to review it, decide if you have any questions, and at the next meeting, we will take up possible action or action to receive a presentation from the employer or the administration. That is for you to decide between now and then. So for now, there's no action required on this item. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Blanco. Move to item 12B. Consider approval of administrative recommendation. Ms. Marta C. Carmona.
President Morales and members of the board, administration recommends Mr. David Ramirez to assume the roles and responsibilities. Mr. Ivan Ramirez to assume the roles and responsibilities as the new principal of Pebble Hills High School.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Got a motion by Mr. Michael Nájera and a second by Mr. Pablo Barrera. Any further questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? The motion carries. Our next item is the position at Colonel John O. Enzer Middle School.
President Morales and members of the board, administration recommends Mr. Steven Fernandez to assume the roles and responsibilities as the new principal of Enzer Middle School.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Eduardo Mena and a second by Michael Nájera. Mr. Michael Nájera, any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? The motion carries. Item 12B, well, let me just say this. Assistant Principal, Eastlake High School.
President Morales, members of the board, for clarification, we are recommending two positions for assistant principal at Eastlake High School. First recommendation is Mr. Jesus Vasquez to assume the role and responsibilities as new assistant principal of Eastlake High School.
Second.
I've got a motion by Mr. Paul Guerra and a second by, I believe I heard Mr. Eduardo Mena. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? The motion carries. Next position is at the assistant principal at Sergeant Jose F. I'm sorry. You have another one?
More
Sorry.
Eastlake, yeah.
I have another one, okay. Second position at Eastlake High School.
President Morales and members of the board, administration recommends Mr. Vincent Thomas to assume the role and responsibilities as the new assistant principal of Eastlake High School.
Motion to approve.
Got a motion by Mr. Eduardo Mena and a second by Mr. Paul Guerra. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? The motion carries. Now we have the next position at Socorro High School. Thank you. Socorro High School, go ahead, Ms. Carmona.
President Morales, members of the board, administration recommends Mrs. Brenda Cerda Gerardo to assume the role and responsibilities as the new assistant principal at Socorro High School.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Pablo Barrera and a second by Mr. Eduardo Mena. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? The motion carries. Our next position is at, we have Sergeant Jose F. Carrasco Elementary School.
President Morales and members of the board, administration recommends Dr. Danielle Navarez to assume the role and responsibilities as the new assistant principal of Sergeant Jose F. Carrasco Elementary School.
Motion to approve.
We have a motion by Mr. Pablo Barrera and a second by Mr. Ricardo Castellano. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? The motion carries. And finally, the item 3 here, Employee Health Clinic Physician Assistant.
President Morales, members of the board, administration recommends Raul Villalobos to assume the role and responsibilities as the new health clinic physician assistant.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Eduardo Mena and a second by Mr. Pablo Barrera. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? The motion carries. If there is no further business for the board, the meeting is to be adjourned at 9:19. Meeting